How are we, people? Welcome to the Fair One podcast. This is live. We are going to do a review of the fights, have a chat, see what people think of the fights that are coming up, and everything else that is important in the life of the esoteric. Borrowing that from the Tim Ferriss podcast, I was able to put it into my own podcast. So I'm very, very happy with that. Going to do the intro, guys. How are we all? Please let me know what you guys think, what's happening, what you guys thought of the fights on the weekend. I was very impressed with Cyril in the main event. He was very, very impressive guy, man. I was super impressed with Aldo. I was impressed with Bobby Green in his loss to Fiziev. Really, really impressed with Bobby Green. I think that he seems to have cleaned up a lot of his boxing and a little bit of his before he used to shoulder roll a lot and still um just get tagged up a lot. He wasn't doing a lot, but this time against a very good striker and Fiziev, he was able to get that into the third round where he Fiziev was throwing power shots, loading up on those power shots, and he really did a good job of not getting, tagged up by him and taking that further and further into deeper waters where he was able to capitalize on it. So, well, capitalize as far as winning the third round. I agree with the decision. I thought it was close, but I don't know. You'd have to give the first round. Maybe you could have given to Bobby Green. I don't know. Maybe, but definitely second round. I think for Fiziev, and then the third round for Bobby Green. But yeah, like I said, I was really impressed. I was impressed with both guys, but I was really impressed with Bobby in that fight. So that's Vicente Luque, man. He was he was really, really good, man. He looked. You can't even say he looked great because the fight was so quick. Um, again. I think it was a good job by Kesa. He was able to implement what he wanted to do. Um, and I think one of the guys here, I think it was Marshall Smartest, said it was a great grappling exchange. That was the one exchange we saw, and he got Kesa in his patented Das choke, and that was that. So yeah, so what do we got here? Nathan Gorman says, I feel like the fight between Francis and Gane would hinge on that exact detail. I don't see Gane able to stay calm, and for that reason, he gets clipped and KO'd. I don't know. I haven't seen anything with Cyril that looks like he wouldn't stay composed. There's nothing in it to say that he wouldn't that I've seen thus far. Correct me if I'm wrong. To suggest that he can't stay composed. Having said that, the thing I see, one of the things, and we'll talk about it closer to the fight, is the fact that unlike Derek Lewis, Frank's a lot more mobile, and he can hit you from all sorts of different angles. He obviously it's nothing new that he hits very hard. He hits stupid hard, and he hits from, like I said, different angles, off balance. He can be off balance. His feet might not be planted, and he'll still swing. And if he hits you, you're going down. Now, having said that, Cyril looks to be a guy that understands distance quite well. Other than tending to kind of be in the pocket a little bit, but he didn't do that against Derek Lewis. So I think that's something that they addressed. He's trained with Francis a lot before, so they both got each other's timing. But I think it's more important that he has Francis's timing and length down than it is the other way around, just because of the dire consequences that come from you not getting Francis's timing down pat. So I think the fact that those things happen are all in favor of Gane in that regard. Not that I favor Gane in the fight, but I'm saying that all those things, the fact that they trained before, I think favor Gane a little more than they favor Francis. So I don't know. The thing with Francis, though, like I said, the thing with Francis is that he can be off balance. He can be bum rushing you. He can be moving back. It doesn't matter. If he hits you and he connects, you're going down. So that's very, very scary. We Are Live says, Gun is the French Terminator. Wishful Thinking says, hi, Fab. Schwetlord says, how good is Vicente's guard? Das, sorry. It's very good. I think he's got the most finishes by Das, So it surprised me that he was able to get Chiesa the way he did and how quickly he was able to get it, because Chiesa is a very, very, very good grappler. Nathan Gorman says, how does Gane stay in the pocket to hit Francis without backing up from fear of Ganu's hands? I don't think he can hit Francis in the pocket. I don't think he's going to even try. I think he's going to do what he did with Lewis, or try to do what he did with Lewis. He's got better footwork and better angles than both those guys. So I think that's what he's going to try and play. Different angles, different movement, and try and get Francis, drag him out into those fourth and fifth rounds where the power won't be as significant necessarily. I think Francis would slow down considerably in the third, fourth, and fifth, particularly in the fourth and fifth. I still don't think he's going to lack punching power. He's still going to have some shots on him there. But just statistically, you don't have the same power in the fourth and fifth that you do in the first, second, and third. You can see that statistically, and just as far as energy systems are concerned, you won't have the same punching power. So I don't think he's going to even try to hit him in the pocket like he did with Lewis. I don't think that's where he's going to try and take that fight. If he's in the pocket, he's going to be pushing Francis up against the cage or trying to take Francis down. And then if Francis defends that, which he will, I think, especially early on, then he's going to have to back out and not get hit on the way out and hope that Francis can't land them on him if he bum rushes him. Now, I think Cyril's got a lot of powers himself, and even if he's not that one punch stop, kind of power like Francis has or Derek Lewis has, but he's a big, strong guy that knows how to strike. He's got a lot of striking credentials as well in his arsenal. So and he's experienced, man. People talk about like he's new to the fight game and this and that. He's relatively new to MMA, but like I've said before, one of the things that I like he had his first fight in Muay Thai in 2014. We are now in 2001. So by the time he fights Francis, could be 2002, could be closer to 8 years or something of fight experience. And with guys like that, like big guys that I think heavyweights in particular that haven't taken the tremendous amount of trauma that some other guys have, I think it's honestly a benefit to them. The other thing is with a lot of those heavyweights, if they've played sports like basketball or football, and he's played both, I think it helps a lot with the footwork, and you can kind of see it. He's very light in his feet. It also, like, he would have, if say he played basketball, he'd be Mr. Average. He's not huge. He's not like hugely athletic compared to like 6'5" basketball players, and guys that build are usually taller, like the power forwards and that. So he'd be okay, but then you take him out of that sport, right, and you put him into MMA where a lot of the guys can't move the way he moves, and I think that is a big advantage. I think the fact that he's had 13 kickboxing fights, he's won 9 by knockout, so he can hit, man, he can whack, and he's had 10 MMA fights, he's won 4 of those by knockout, and 3 submissions and 3 decisions. So, like, all up, he's had 23 fights. It's not like he hasn't had any, like he hasn't had much fight experience. He's had a lot of fights, man. He's had enough fights to know what he has to do. So I think it'll be interesting. Somebody else says, Robin McKenzie says, greetings from the Frontier Fab. Greetings to you, good sir. Juice says, how difficult is it to fight a friend, or is it all business when they're in the cage? I don't know. I've never had anyone fight a friend. You know what I mean? I've had people that have fought people that they're friendly with, but not a friend, like a close friend or something like that. It depends how you define friend. Is friend someone that you're like, hey man, how you doing when you see each other, da da da, but you both know in the back of your mind, hey, we're gonna have to fight each other someday. Like most of the guys that I've coached, guys being a gender neutral term, girls as well, like a friend, they wouldn't fight them. You know what I mean? There's a difference between that. I think, and then other people can fight their friends, and it's cool. So, I think it depends. It also depends. Like if you grew up competing, like if you grew up in wrestling, you might like stay at each other's house in the rest and then have to compete against each other the next day. You know what I mean? Like you might live in a different state and you come through to a tournament, you stay at your friend's house, but you could be wrestling him the next day. And if you grow up like that, then you might see it as just a competition thing. I think the stakes are very high professional sport though, where like it's that sliding doors thing. One person can go one way and the other person can go another way just off that win or off that loss. Um, and in the way that the pay structure is done in the UFC, like you can double your money and you can halve your money. You know what I mean by winning and losing. So I think that's it's hard. I don't know. I don't know that Gane and or Gane rather and Francis. I don't know how close they actually are. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know, again, what's portrayed in the media, what's not, what they say is not necessarily what's true. I'm not calling them liars or anything, but I'm saying like it's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily that they are even that close a lot of the times, or that maybe they're closer than what we think. I don't know. But generally, as well, like once you're in there and you're hitting each other, yeah, you're hitting each other. Nathan Gorman says, "How does Garney say?" Okay, Schwetlord says Francis got power everywhere. Lewis had to hit the right hand, and both he and Garney knew it. I think for me is where the biggest difference from this fight to the Garney fight. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Lewis was the overhand right, the right uppercut. They're the main weapons of choice, whereas Francis can hit you completely off balance, throw a left hook, catch you, and you're in a lot of trouble. Andrew says, "Hey Fab, I've seen people making comparisons in fighting styles between Rob and Cyril Gane. What do you make of these comparisons? Hope all is well." I mean, there are similarities. There are some similarities, but I think the similarities, when you look at them, like from a you look at it from a what? How could I say this? Like a simplistic kind of view. There are some similarities. They both bounce. They both think, but I think they're very very different in how they fight. Um, they're very very different. Like it's not. He doesn't come to me like when I think like Rob, similar to Rob. I don't. Not at this stage, anyways. Maybe I see something later down the track, and I do. But no, they're a bit different. They're a little bit different. At least I think that, anyways. Wishful thinking says, "How do you think a fight between Derek Lewis and Rosenstruck goes?" I personally think Rosenstruck is just a better version of Derek. I think it goes like every other Derek Lewis fight. Either he gets outstruck, he gasses out, can't hit the dude, um, or that happens and Derek Lewis cracks him anyways and he wins. Chris H says, "Does Luke have the best chance of beating Usman at 170?" I mean, yes, he could. I don't know if he has the best chance because I think there are some really good fighters at 170. Even like there are like not just off. Oh, he won his last fight, he lost his last fight, But yeah, but I don't know if he has the best chance. He has very good chance, But I also saw that Kesa was able to still relatively early get him to the ground. There was a good grappling exchange, and he gave a good account of himself. Did Luke on the ground, obviously finishing him with a dust. But I'd have to believe that Usman would be able to get him to the ground and or hold him up against that cage. So I don't know if he's got the best chance, but he's got a good chance. Um, Evening Fab and everyone says Randy. Nathan Gorman says, "Can Gane outpoint Francis though? To last 5 rounds without getting hit, Stipe did it, but Stipe used wrestling. Gane doesn't have Stipe level of wrestling. But Cyril can wrestle, man. He's he has taken people down. He can wrestle. I don't think he has Stipe's level of wrestling. No. I don't know, but MMA maths like it doesn't add up like that either. You know what I mean? Having said that, Lewis beat Francis too, and he doesn't have any of those things. Of course, he has that one shot power. So I think it's not so much what you have, but how you use it. So I do think that it matters what happens in the fight. You know what I mean? That matters a lot. I agree with you though. You got to last at least 3 rounds without getting tagged. Maybe in the fourth and fifth he's lost a bit of steam. Da 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 da. But you have to last a good solid 3 rounds without getting tagged. That's a fucking hard, like a hard ask. Nathan Gorman, but he's not. Francis has proven that he's not unbeatable. He's not unbeatable. And contrary to popular belief, Stipe didn't do a horrendous job. He got clipped, man. He got clipped against Francis, and that's what's going to happen. And that's what you got to be careful with Francis. And Francis can't clip anyone. Doesn't mean you fall bad just because you lost. Nathan says, I don't feel this card was a pay-per-view worthy of a card. I feel like recently the fights on paper don't give me much excitement. The future pay-per-view cards look good though. It's an interesting thing here, and that's what I was saying before. Not this card, but the card before it, when I was saying to you about like that card, whilst it was a good card, it was a good card. I enjoyed the fights. There were a lot of good fights. Having said all of that, on that particular card, there wasn't like if you had watched, so just so we all know what card I'm talking about, the Hall versus Strickland card. If that card was on any other promotion, no one would watch it. I enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of Strickland. I'm a big fan of Hall. I like them both. For nostalgia's sake, from a MMA nerd's perspective, I was really into that particular fight. But all of those fights on that card were great. Having said that, on the other side, Bellator had a good card for, like, by Bellator standards, was a really good card. Had a belt on the line, right? And what from my understanding, they did something like 80 or 90,000 views, Bellator, and that UFC card did something like 900,000 views, right? Not buys, views. And you think like fuck, man, that's the difference. That's the difference with like the UFC doesn't have to put amazing cards together because the UFC propaganda will get you over the line. They'll get you your fucking your viewership, right? And they've done a fantastic job of promoting the UFC. So I think you can expect more cards like that, to be honest with you. Juice says the friend question was in regard to Francis versus Gane, although I'm not sure how close they are. That's what I mean, man. A lot of the times it's played out. Like, you got to understand, dude, this, like, whilst you have relationships with people, it's also like a work relationship as well to a certain extent. Like, people change jobs, people, whatever. It's not like you're necessarily best fucking mates, a lot of the times it's circumstantial. A lot of the times you go to a gym, and especially being a big guy, there might not be 10 other big guys at a gym, You might not want to work with 10 other big guys. This is another massive misconception that people have. People think you should go to a gym that has 10 other heavyweights. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you, like, they're the competition? Why would you go and show your cards? You don't have to do that. So it might be circumstantial. It might be that you're a big heavyweight and you're good, and there's a gym that's got one or two other heavyweights, and you kind of gel pretty well with them. You have good chemistry. You train together well, blah blah blah, and you train there together because of all those things, and you get on really well, and you have the right same work focus. But outside of the gym, you might have different political, religious, all sorts of different views, man, that you're not really necessarily cool with a guy. But in the gym, you're both respectful, you like each other, you don't have to pretend. You just generally just gel. Like, there's people, you have a best friend at work, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you guys go fishing together and hang out together. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But you might have a dude that's at work that you're like, fuck, man, this guy's good. You just get on, you just have a laugh, da 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 da. But when you go home, and maybe that person never comes to your house, never has dinner with you, never anything. And when you leave, you're sad to go, but you'll probably never talk to that guy again. You know what I mean? Um, and it could be like that. Like, a lot of the times it's like that. Hudson says you don't see many MMA fighters over 6 foot. Why do you think that is? Well, you do in like the heavier divisions. That they're generally over 6 foot. But I would tend to think that if you're like generally like a semi-shield character, like you're almost 7 foot, Struve, all those guys, like if you have average level talent to play like basketball or something, then you're going to play that because you ride the bench in the NBA and get paid a lot more than you will as a fighter. Granted, the NBA is super hard to make, but I'm saying to you, like, you could play professional basketball anywhere and do pretty well, you know? I think you're generally going to see one, there's not that many people that are that tall. And when you are that tall, you're a bit of an anomaly. And there's other avenues that are open to you when you're that tall. Like you are, you're out. You, you're not a normal person. Also, when you're that tall, like you got to understand, there's not that many humans that are that tall. Just period. There's just not that many. And out of them, even less are going to be athletes. And out of that many, only very, very fucking few are going to be fighters. So it's that's probably why you don't see that. There's just not that many people that are 6'5", 6'4", 6'6". Anyway, you wouldn't see that many people over 6 foot in your office. Uh, Hudson says you don't see many MMA. Juice says, "Oh yeah, you mentioned it. Thanks." Andrew says, "Thanks, Fab." No, thank you guys. Thank you for everything. Salah Ahmed says, "Evening, Fab. Evening to you, good sir." Wishful thinking says, "Cheers, Fab." Also, what's next for Fiziev? What do you guys think is next for Fiziev? That's he's not in an easy division. It's a tough fight. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, the lightweight division's no joke. There's a cavalcade of animals there, man. I don't know. You know what I mean? I genuinely do not know. Whilst he looked good in those first 2 rounds, I dare say over 5 rounds, if he fights like that, he's going to have problems. Even over 3 rounds, I think like a guy, that could push a little more than what Bobby Green did, which Bobby Green did a fantastic job. Could present some trouble for him. So whilst he did, it's one of those things, and again, it I guess it comes from, this is a compliment, not a criticism of Fiziev. I guess you expect so much from him, kind of like Islam Makhachev, that when they win, you expect them to win like blow the person out of the water, and if he does anything other than that, his stock drops. Whereas if the other guy's stock goes up in a loss, like Bobby Green's stock kind of went up in that loss against Fiziev, and Fiziev's stock kind of went down because he didn't run through Bobby Green, which I don't think is fair to really expect that of him. I don't know. I don't know what happens there. Like, can I see him beating a Dan Hooker right now? No. Can I see him beating uh, maybe Dos Anjos, someone like that might be a real tough fight, man, for him. I think that's a nice fight to make. I don't see him beating Islam. I don't know. I think him. But I'd like to see him fight Dos Anjos, but it might be a step up too early for him. I don't know. Maybe another guy before he cracks that top 10. I'm not sure. Um, Ryu Ken says Cyril Gane is growing on me. I wasn't a fan, but now I am. Actually, been a fan since day one. Nathan Gorman says Fiziev clearly won round 2 and Green won the third. It should be 29-28. How did one judge score at 30-27? I don't know. We spoke about it before. I thought the first round was up for grabs, kind of thing. I thought Fiziev might have got it. I could understand if someone gave it to Ding. I don't see it as a 30-27 fight. Obviously, we've spoken about it, like we spoke about it before, but you got to also understand there's 3 judges for that reason, and they can only see what they see. And if you're ringside and you're watching, you can only see from one perspective. You're not watching it from television. You might have a screen next to you, but you're watching the fight here, so you can only see what's happening from one angle, and that's why you have 3 judges. So I think like people do them, and people. I'm not calling you an asshole, but people, and don't get me wrong, I disagree with a lot of the decisions. I don't agree that it was a 30-27 fight, but I'm also saying this: the reason that you have 3 judges is because of that. That's why when you take one judge out and you say, "How did you see it like that?" It's because, dude, I can only judge from what I can see, not from what I think I saw. So you have to understand that as well. Like you can't, like if I'm watching, I can only see from one perspective. I can't see what somebody else is doing. Many, many times when I've cornered people, I've been watching, especially because I want my guy to win, and I've been thinking my guy's flogging that dude. But what's happened is my guy is on the other guy's on his back, for instance, right? The other guy's on his back, on the far side of the octagon from me, and all I can see is my guy's back and him wailing down, landing shots, bam, bam, bam. And I'm thinking he's going to kill this guy. When I watch the video and I see it from the other angle, he didn't land any shots. He landed shots on the guy's arms. The guy was tying him up. He's throwing punches. He didn't land any shots on the ground. I'm just giving you an example. Then they get back to their feet, da 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 da. So I'm not whereas I'm not sticking up for the judge, but I'm also trying to explain to people it's actually this is how it's seen. It's not. It's this is what the judges can see. It's not really a fair thing, and I think people love to shit on the judges because it makes people feel like fuck. I know what's going on. These guys are idiots, and I think there's also the agenda where people can talk about they ripped the guy off of fighter pay, and it's like no, dude, they don't organize the fight pay. Um, I don't agree. Just for the argument, I don't agree with the decision. I don't think it was a 30-27 win for Fiziev. But I also think like you got to understand that's why you have three judges. If all three judges gave that 30-27 to Fiziev, I would be like, nah, then it's impossible because you have three different angles. How the fuck did you see that? Um, Chris H says if NYC is requiring vaccines, the Madison Square Garden card is going to fall apart. Zachariah Tana says, Big Fabulous. What do you think about UFC forcing an interim belt in the heavyweight division to force Francis to fight? That's not why they did it. They did it because they didn't think that Amanda Nunes was going to carry that card on her own. And more people are going to watch the two heavyweight men. It's not to force Francis to fight. Juice says, seeing Stipe rock Francis even just a little bit made me realize Francis isn't invincible. I think he's not the best striker in that division, in my opinion, but he hits the hardest. And if he hits you, you're staying hit. Ali Shukri says, Gane himself said they were never really close at all. Well, there you go. And having said that, like, don't read into too much what people say, because that's why I don't get into it. Oh, he said this, because, man, I've been involved with people or whatever. Don't get too caught up with, he's a good guy or he's not a good guy. You don't know, man. You don't fucking know him, and they're not just because they say something in an interview or in a podcast. It doesn't mean that's what they really think or that's what they really like. Like I said to you before, you don't go around and introduce yourself and say, hi, my name's Tom, and I like to portray myself as a nice guy, but I'm a bit of a prick. And you know what? I've got a crush on my brother's wife as well. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell, just putting it all out there on the table, saying no one does that, Everyone has thing, and especially if you're putting shit out in the public, like don't take it all with a grain of salt, you know. Salah says Luka is only 29. I feel like it's inevitable he becomes a champion. Welterweight is an aging division. Usman, Wonderboy, Burns are all on their way out. Leon and Luka are the only young guys in the top 10. True, but you got to remember with welterweight and lightweight and featherweight, they're the weights that most people walk around at. So there's always new guys coming through. There's always new guys coming through. I think Luka's a pretty bad motherfucker though. Pip Dennison says, hi, Hefe, sorry I'm late. Surf with Jacko was fun. What did I miss? You missed nothing, sir. Well, you missed nothing. Stainless Stove says, it's fabulous, Fab streaming again. Love it. Hey, Fab, I went skateboarding today. Felt good. Rest in peace, Fab's knees. What did you think of Aldo? Thank you, man. Thank you for supporting us. I think Aldo's one of the best to ever lace gloves on, man. He is a monster, dude. He is an absolute monster. I think he could have been like one of like cemented his name in folklore, but he couldn't go down anyways. They weren't doing that champ thing. But I think he could have been one of those people that held the belt as a featherweight and as a bantamweight. Oh, like I said before, like when I first saw him, I thought, like when I first saw him in real life, you know how people make fun of me because they say everyone thinks everyone's big. I don't, but there are people that are fucking big and there are people that aren't. Kessa was huge when I saw him in real life. Aldous shocked me how small he was. Like when I first saw him, because on TV he looked like, man, this guy looks massive for featherweight. when I saw him in real life, he was jacked and muscular. Don't get me wrong, but he was little. He was like a little guy, and it surprised me how little he was. He looked strong as fuck. Don't get me wrong. He didn't look like a weak little timid guy, but I thought this guy could fight at bantamweight. It was like the first. It was like bang, this guy could fight at bantamweight, and he made that move later in his career. Which gets harder for you to cut the weight, and he's looked amazing. The problem is, I think two things: he is aging. He looks absolutely fantastic. He looks as lean as a cadaver. I think his style, like he cuts those angles, he slips and rips, and he does that really well. And whilst he does throw volume though, but the major thing that he does is throw power bombs. And I think that there's a few guys in that division that, uh, well, if no, at featherweight, there's Holloway that is just gonna just drown him in volume, and that's what he did. Like he hit Holloway with some good shots, some big rips to the body, but after 3 rounds, he just could not keep up the volume. And I see him struggling with Petr Yan over 5 rounds. I think that's a hard fight for him. Real hard fight. Um, and I think bantamweight, there are some guys there that are sluggers now. There are a lot of guys that have power, but I see him being there, top two, top three. Again, Dillashaw, hard guy to do that with over 5 rounds, especially if they fight over 5 rounds. Very, very hard, man, because Dillashaw's got the cardio to keep going. He's got the elusiveness to make you miss. Um, he can hit as well, and he can hit and move and find angles. Um, uh, Sandhagen, again, another guy that's going to give Aldo problems. But I think Aldo's phenomenal, and I think he looked absolutely amazing. Just a second. Juice says, I would have no trouble fighting any of my work colleagues. Jokes. Well, there you go then. That's how a lot of people feel. Juice says, at Stainless Stove, you're a legend, and I agree, sir. Stainless Stove says, hey, Fab, do you think Aldo had an injury in his legs and had some kind of metal plate? I don't know. I assume something has happened to his legs and it might hurt him to kick these days. I don't know. I don't know. He's broke his foot once on a check. That might have made him a little more hesitant to kick. I think a lot of it comes, though, from the fact that he's adopted a more boxing heavy approach. And so he's not as square as he once was. To throw those kicks, you want to be a little bit more square. And I think his feet are angled a little bit different for him to be able to slip and move and rip. And it's a little bit harder to get those kicks off in the way that it was before. But he never used to have that slip and rip style with such a good jab and a check hook, which he developed in the later years of his career. And the stance is a little bit different to your Muay Thai stance. It's going to be a better stance for you to kick like that. Having said that, I think he's also very, very jealous with how he kicks. He's very, very conservative, but he still kicks well. And when he kicks hard, and he reminds you that you cannot leave your legs there. And I think he used that. Whilst he uses them sparingly, he uses them well. So I think a lot of that's got to do with the stance, the change of stance in his boxing. The check hook and the jab are now primary in his arsenal, and his ability to do different types of jabs and to time you coming in with uppercuts and whatnot. It's a little bit of a different stance, so it's kind of off for him to throw that kick a little bit. My opinion. I could be just talking shit. Stainless Stove says, when did Mini Me have such a growth spurt? Who are we talking about? We're talking about my daughter. When did she grow? Is that what you're asking? I'm not exactly sure. Quezi B says, Tony Ferguson versus Fiziev. Hudson, I'm more with you. Fiziev versus Gillespie would be a good fight. It'd be a very good fight. I think Gillespie gets him. That's me, if I had to guess. I'd rather see Fiziev versus Gillespie. If I see him fight against Ferguson, Ferguson beats him, great for Ferguson. But if he beats Ferguson, everyone expected him to beat Ferguson. Him and Gillespie, now that's a fight. That's a crazy fight. Gus Hodges says if the Aldo versus Dillashaw matchup somehow got put together, I find it hard to see how TJ can pull off the win given their respective attributes and skill sets. Am I missing something? I think I think that it's a real interesting fight because they're both about the same age, you know. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who wins that fight. I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know. You know what I mean? Sport Reaction says Gane destroys Ngannou. I don't know. Again, I don't know. Nathan Gorman says, how will Diaz and Lawler actually play out? I feel like it will be boring. Diaz ain't fought in years and has no punching power, and Lawler has lost 4 fights in a row and is gun shy. I expect a dud. All right. Diaz is a lot of stoppages by punches, man. He hits pretty hard for someone who's not winding up on his punches. So he's knocked out Lawler in the first round. So, you know, he places his punches very fucking stopped. He stopped Paul Daly in the first round. Both big hitters, you know, both at the time, especially they were. He doesn't load up on his shots, but he stings, man. He stings and he hits hard enough. I don't know what that fight's going to look like because I haven't seen Diaz fight for a long time. I don't know where Lawler's at in his career. You know what I mean? Like this is obviously one of those name value fights. You know, you're watching this for the name. You know, not necessarily because it's going to go anywhere in the division necessarily. Both these guys are absolute legends. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know unless I haven't seen Diaz fight. I think Diaz hits hard enough. You know, like he'll hit you and he'll put the volume on it. But he has stopped a lot of people. You know, he has stopped a lot of people. He's hurt a lot of people, and then submitted him as well. Like he'll hurt you on the feet. Chris H says Brad Riddell versus Fiziev. Yep, that's another one. Sport Reaction says people hit guys in the back of the head on ground and pound. Yes, they do, my friend. Yes, they do, and on the feet too. Gray says, "Hey Fab, I've got a bad feeling if Till beats Brunson, the UFC will push for a title fight versus Israel because they can't do a big show in Australia due to COVID restrictions." I don't think so. I think that fight's going to happen with Rob. I think that fight with Rob's more or less it's going to happen. From my understanding, I don't see how Till, who lost to Rob, would be up for that fight. Juice says might go to NZ. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't see how you could make the fight in NZ right now with the whole COVID thing. New Zealand is you're going to have to quarantine. It's going to be a shit fight over there. Sport Reaction says, would you fight in New York with the taxes? We get taxed big time here in Australia, so I don't think it would make a massive difference. Laced Up says, imagine Prime Cain Velasquez versus Cyril Gane. That would be a technical heavyweight fight if I've ever seen one. Really good fight, that one. Really, really good fight. I would have liked to have seen a Prime Cain versus Francis. Stainless Stove says, when I see Aldo fight a bantamweight, it confuses me. He's a tank. He is a tank, man. He's a very, very, very athletic, like really, really strong, athletic little guy, dude. Like he really is. Nathan Gorman says, Sean Brady is out of the Kevin Lee fight. Who you think Kevin should fight? I personally think he has the physical attribute to be champ. His performance was versus Barboza was mad. I feel like he lacks something mental. I can't say to you what it is. You know, Kevin Lee has definitely got all the physical attributes to be champion. I don't know what it is. I've got my theories, but you know, that's my theories about somebody else that I really don't know. I don't know who he should fight. Not having, you know, Brady being out of the fight, I don't know. But yeah, he's a very, 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 very good fighter. Um, he's another guy that at lightweight you have to throw him in the mix, and you have to think like he could get through pretty much anyone there, or he could beat anyone there, or he could lose to him. But he's a yeah, there's something there that he hasn't quite put together yet. And I don't think it's because I don't know. I don't know. I can't really say that. Sport Reaction says Aldo being small has a negative impact on his GOAT debate. Less risk of getting knocked out. Yeah, but there's also more. They're also faster and overall more skilled. You know what I mean? You can't compare the skill levels. I think the technical skill levels of an Aldo with do this. Pick the top five guys at welterweight. Pick the top five guys at featherweight and lightweight, and compare those guys to the top five in heavyweight. It's skill levels aren't the same, dude. They're not even close. Um, Stainless Stove says, Fab, apart from Peter Yan, who else at bantamweight do you think has the best chance to give Aldo a tough fight? Like I said earlier, I think Dillashaw, I think Sandhagen, Aljamain, all those guys will give him a good run, man. Stainless Stove says he just looks so fucking jacked. He's ripped. He's super lean. Rob Font, yeah, there's some good guys there. Juice says, I don't mind back of the head strikes. Is that just me? Um, I don't know if it's just you and the context you're being hit in the back of the head. MMA Shorts says, please give a shout out to my channel. Shout out to MMA Shorts. Wishful Thinking says, hey Fab, fairly new listener. What's your relationship with Rob and how did you meet? Man, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it, my friend. Obviously, it's not you. It's just something that keeps getting asked. I don't really have any relationship to Rob now, but I was one of Rob's main coaches for like 7 years. How did I meet? He just came into a gym I was coaching in at the time, and we just started coaching more and more, and that's it. That's the extent of the relationship. Juice says, "Is Stipe versus Jones official? Have you already spoken about it?" No, we haven't spoken about it. We can speak about it. That's going to be a cracker fight. Lucian Fox says, it's crazy. Just a few months ago, I remember you saying you can't see anyone beating Francis. Then, boom, Cyril comes out of nowhere. Yeah, look, man, I don't know. I don't know that the Cyril can beat Francis. I think he can. I think anyone can beat anyone. But like I said, I think Cyril's got a lot of weapons and he's smart. And he can beat him. The only thing he's got to not get hit for 3 rounds. And then the fourth and fifth, I think Cyril can really come on. I think he's much better striker. I think he's way better striker. I think he's much more technical than Francis. He's got much better movement. He's got much better angles. But Francis defies those laws of physics. He can be off balance, hit you, and knock you into next week. I don't know if I said I can't see anyone beating Francis. I don't know that I would have said that necessarily. I'm not saying I didn't. The reason I say it is because I've seen people beat Francis. Stainless Stove says mini me equals UFAB. Stainless steel boldness. Adam D says, do you keep up to date with the Ultimate Fighter, Fab? Nah, not at all. I do not keep up to date with that whatsoever. Not even 1%. I just don't think. I watch the fights. I do a little bit of research on the fights. I love watching the fights. And yeah, that's the extent of my thing. I don't watch like too many interviews or anything like that, just because honestly, to me, I know how much it's all just a show, and I'm not bagging people for that. I think it's all cool for you to watch that, and if you enjoy the back and forwards and that and everything, it's all good. But I also know that it's all bullshit. You know what I mean? None of that's real. None of it matters. So it's not what you see is not what it is. The people aren't going to say what they really think or who they really are, necessarily. So yeah. Juice says, I'm talking about back of the head strikes in MMA. Just a sec. Um, yeah, back of the head strikes. The thing is, man, I think with the back of the head strikes, like it's hard. Like you can't really see the shots coming and you can't really defend yourself. I think once you've given that point, I think you kind of capitulated the fight as well. Like if you're turtled down like this and somebody's landing shots in the back of your head, you're done. You're not defending yourself. Um, but I think the problem with the back of the head strikes is that um, the shots land. You know that people get hit in the back of the head. There's not even a question. Um, Chris H says, "Hey coach, would Khabib beat the top BJJ players in a no gi match?" No, I can fucking guarantee you that he wouldn't. He like the good like the good guys, like say I'll give you an example, like a guy like Craig Jones. I've seen him roll with people. It's not even a no, it wouldn't it like no, it wouldn't even come close. And it's not because um like Khabib's not good. Khabib's a very good grappler, but his grappling is for combat. And it's a big difference. Having said that, the the very best grapplers in the world might not like not might not for sure wouldn't do very well against him in MMA, yeah, unless they've been training MMA, and they're going to use their grappling. But I'm talking about if they haven't been training MMA, the very best grapplers in the world, and they fought Khabib, he'd smash him because the first shot would change everything. But on the flip side of that, if there is no strikes and he's just grappling against them, it's very, very hard because they're specialists. The difference is very, very, very big. And it depends on the rule set. Hold on a second. Oh, yeah, the rule sets make the matches too. If he can't like maybe if it was like a 3 minute match and takedowns were scored, like it's a 3 minute match, and if you get a takedown and the guy can't pull guard, then yeah. But a 20-minute grappling submission only match where you have to engage. You can't do, no disrespect to him because he played the rules, but like a Brendan Schaub versus Cyborg match where he could back out and there was no like that. No, okay, then yes, he could get a draw. But I'm talking about where he has to engage and actually roll with someone. Like if Brendan Schaub had to engage and roll with Cyborg, it wouldn't even be close. Dude. It wouldn't be a close match. I don't think he'd beat the top guys, Khabib in grappling. I don't think he would do bad, but I just think like when you think of like your Marcelo Garcias and that, it's a different level, man. It's a different fucking animal, man. You watch like the Craig Jones kind of guys, like Con Gracie, like that, when they grapple in that grappling realm, it's different. It's a very, very different thing. I don't even know how much experience he's had grappling under that rule set. I'm sure that if he said I'm going to train and compete under this rule set, like in say 2 years, 3 years, I'm sure he could do very well. But if you're asking me like right now, I'm saying to you it's a very specific thing at the top. It's a very specific thing, but a lot of it depends on the rule sets as well. A lot of it depends on that. And you're asking the top guys. You're not talking about would he do well against some black belts. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he'll fucking kill some black belts. Adam D says, agreed. I just skipped to the fights. The drama is kind of cringe. Dude, I find it so cringe. And also, I find like, man, being involved in a lot of sport and that when people go, have you seen this documentary? Have you seen that? Da 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 da. I can't watch them, dude, because like I've seen with a lot of different athletes I've worked with a lot of different people, a lot of like not even athletes, business people or whatever. I've seen how fake a lot of that shit is. So I don't watch it. I can't watch it, man. They killed the child in me, mate. They killed the child. Um, Jason Correa says, I like the way Cyril was using a high guard, blocking power shots with his forearms in the sparring against Francis. Yeah, look, man, don't look into that too much because sparring is very, very, very different to an actual fight, and they're not throwing full power shots with small gloves, they're very padded up and it's different. It's all very, very different. Kamaru says, Gane can't keep that close to Ngannou. Once Ngannou keeps punching you even with a jab, it will slow you down eventually. Yeah, and look, not just slow you down, dude, but only one has to get through to really change even if it doesn't knock you out, you just have to feel that power to go, okay, I can't stay here. I just can't stay here. Chris Chris H says it would be fun to watch Khabib in that EBI combat rules that allow slaps. Yeah, in that rule setting, he'd do very well. Um, but see, you got to also understand something else with Khabib. It's not just his grappling that he. I I haven't seen him fight, and this is the thing. I haven't seen him fight a Gilbert Burns or and correct me if I'm wrong with this, but I haven't seen him fight a Gilbert Burns or a Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira would have been an interesting fight. Um, in MMA, which would be a little bit different because that's a different puzzle to solve. Like Charles Oliveira's jiu-jitsu is very, very, very good. I do think Khabib will get the better of you because this is why. It's not the grappling. If they had a grappling match, Charles will probably tap him. Probably. I'm not sure. I have no way of knowing this. Um, but I do think like if he when he fights, he puts on a pace. He puts a pace on you, and he implements his strategy to a point where like he does it the best out of everyone, dude. He knows that he can take you down, and if you get up, he can keep that pressure on you and take you down and let you get back up, and he's going to hit you on your way up. And if you stay in the guard and he ever feels uncomfortable, he just stands up and wails on you, and you've got to move. So he will just keep wearing you down and wearing you down and wearing you down and wearing you down. So it's it's a tough, yeah, it's a tough person to deal with. Um, Sorry guys, I'm going to skip a couple of these. Hudson says, "Do you think Jiri should take another fight or just wait it out until he's next for a title fight?" I don't know because with the UFC, there's no way of you knowing if you're going to get that next title shot unless I don't know. I can't even say unless anything. You don't know because the rankings aren't actual proper ranking. It's not a tournament system or whatever. So if you don't fight as well, what happens is the guy behind you comes through, has a great performance, and then the next thing happens is he's in line for the title. So I don't know. His performance against Dom was fantastic, but I don't know if that alone is going to get him a title fight, unless if someone comes through and does something spectacular. I don't know. Gus Harris says, "G'day, Fab and Mini Me. What's your background? Did you say your lovely chef lady is Mongolian? Your little dude's a cutie. MMA question: Does Rob the Contender Bender beat the Black Beast?" Um, let's go back. Okay, this is my daughter. She is a little cutie. Thank you very much. Yeah, my wife's family are from what's now my wife's family is from what is now in Mongolia. Uh, they are Chinese. They're like Chinese now, but they're from like the border, triple border of Russia, China, and Mongolia. Thank you very much. Rob beat the Black Beast, the Derek Lewis. Dude, they are separated by quite a few weight divisions. Juice says the F bomb in Australia is how we greet each other. It's a term of endearment. Martovi says, "Notice you interviewed Isaac Butterfield. Just wanted to ask how that came about. Did you hit him up or did he hit you up? I only recently heard about him and saw his content." A mutual friend. We have a mutual friend, and that's how he came on the show. We just spoke through a mutual friend. Um, Gus Harris says Fab and the Bartsman would be awesome to watch. That said Gus Harris. Yeah, no, I think and also going back to that like thing you were saying about Khabib in grappling, baby, the monster. Going back to the thing you said about Khabib in grappling, like don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's not capable of doing fantastically well in no gi elite competition. He is, and he may well be if that's what he's doing right now. Like say for example, the last 2 years, he stopped fighting and that's what he's focusing on. Yeah, he could do amazingly well. But all I'm trying to say to you is there's a big difference, especially in the rule sets, man. Like 20 minutes sub only. It doesn't matter if he takes him down or whatever, da da da. You're looking for submissions. The top guys are gonna more than likely gonna get it. If it's IFBJJF thing, it's like you can win if you're not practicing that particular thing. You lose. You can win matches and lose matches by advantages, or whatever they're called now. I don't know if they're called the same thing. So you have to be like doing that exact thing for a while. Otherwise, it's hard for you to really get what you're doing. Um, uh, Chris H says, thanks for taking time to answer all of the questions. Appreciate it. I appreciate you guys asking them, man. I appreciate you guys being on the chat. So I really do. Thank you so much. Juice says, how easy or hard is it to fall into a guillotine when going for a takedown? I've seen many times a guy go for a takedown and the defender throw on a guillotine. It doesn't usually work, but I see it a lot. There's a couple of things with the guillotine, right? It depends. Your head positioning depends a lot. If your head positioning, if you're like almost at a right angle with your head down like this, it's a lot easier for them to guillotine, and then they're going to break your posture, and the guillotine's going to be in a lot deeper. But if you change your level and shoot, and your head's kind of up, it's hard for them to guillotine you to begin with, right? The other thing is once that person goes for the guillotine, unless they've sprawled. Depends who you do it to, man. You do it to Marcelo Garcia, you're going to get guillotined. But it depends who you do it to. If the person has kind of defended the takedown first, and then they've got the guillotine in, and then they go for it, they'll probably get the guillotine. But if they just jump into the guillotine, a lot of the times the takedown's finished, and then from there, like unless they've wrapped their hands up tight, da 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 da, like the defense is not that difficult, man. Because you can grab, like I take this hand, I start to work on the grip, and then my shoulder, I push. So if they're guillotining me with their left arm, I push my left shoulder into their chest and pull my weight in that direction, and I start to break the grip. You can also put your hands over the shoulder or whatever, but like in a nutshell, that's the mechanics of that defense. So taking your shoulder, putting that pressure in where the arm on the opposite side of their arm that they're guillotining you with. So it's hard to guillotine like that. Like when you if you get hit with a double leg and the guy, if he times it correctly and his posture's good, it's very hard to guillotine. If he doesn't time it right and his posture's shit, you're getting that guillotine. Um, Gus Harris says, have you met Isaac's dad, Tony Butterfield? Beautiful, strong human. I have not. Jess Wilkinson says, hey Fab, just tuning in. Do you see more heavyweights like Gane showing up and this turning into the norm as the sport develops? Technical, agile, athletic, or is Gane the exception? I think, like I've said before, I think like if you take someone, if you were to get LeBron James and LeBron James wanted to fight, like he was built to fight in his head, he could actually fight, which I don't know if he can or if he can't. And you're not going to see him fight now anyways, unless he squanders all his money or something. But if you got an athlete of that level to fight, like all those heavyweights would look like they can't move, man, compared to him. The difference there is like massive in athleticism and whatnot. He'd look like a freak of nature in the octagon, dude. And again, people might say, "Oh, Nate Robinson versus Jake Paul." Like, dude, one, I said if you can fight, right? If you're in core can fight, and two, if you've been training to fight, not you're at the tail end of your career and you went there because somebody gave you some money. That's not the same thing. I'm saying if you had a guy like LeBron James that when he was 17 said, you know what, I'm done with this basketball stuff. I'm going to go and do MMA. If he did that, you'd see some crazy, crazy level of athlete. But nobody with that level of athleticism and that build is not playing basketball. You know what I mean? You'd be mad. You'd be absolutely mad to do that. There'd be no way that you'd see that level. The UFC just does not pay that kind of money. That's what it comes down to. So no, you'll see other guys come through. I don't think that Gane is like a crazy athlete either. I just think that when you see that, like compared to especially Lewis, who's a very kind of like stable kind of dude, if you read into that as you will, it makes a massive difference. They look very, very different in the way they move. Chris H says, if Khabib ever did do a no-gi match, it would be great to get new viewers and eyes on the sport. You can see him do a no-gi match, though. You can see him at Naga and that he did. He won the advanced division at Naga. He did really well too. Um, I don't know what the link is in that, but you can just Google that. So you can see him grapple. Like he can grapple, dude. He knows what he's doing. Um, but your questions is not that. I think your question was more, or the question was more along the lines of would he beat like a top of the food chain jiu-jitsu guy in a jiu-jitsu match? I don't know. I don't think so. You know. Um, Wishful thinking says Ortega submits Khabib. I don't know. I don't know if Ortega submits Khabib because I don't know how Ortega would do against the best no-gi guys in the world. You know what I mean? I don't. I know that like a Gilbert Burns guy, he's that kind of guy. He's jiu-jitsu's like he's a wizard. You know what I mean? And he's won world titles and the rest of it. So that's a different thing. Voji says, huge fan from South Africa, man. You ever been down here? I have not, man. I want to go. I want to go a lot. I have been to North Africa, been to Morocco, but I really want to go to South Africa. You know, that's up there. Gus Harris says Volkanovski versus Khabib would be awesome. Maybe I'm biased, but do you think Volk has anywhere near enough to play on the ground with Khabib? Imagine them at 170. At 170, Khabib would win, dude. Volkanovski fights at featherweight. You know what I mean? And Khabib is a big lightweight, so there'd be a lot of advantages that Volkanovski would be giving up, especially going up two weight divisions and fighting someone like Khabib, who that's what he wants to do. Volkanovski has the problem is that Khabib is better than Volkanovski from a distant grappling. I think Volkanovski is the better striker, but Khabib is better than Volkanovski at what Volkanovski does best in the grappling department. Khabib's better, but Volkanovski is a better striker in my opinion. But I don't think he has the striking to stop Khabib coming forward. If you're making him go up, if you're making him go up to welterweight, he's small, dude. He's a short guy. He's very, very thick, and at featherweight, he at featherweight he can do what he does because I'm telling you, there'd be no one stronger. It wouldn't even be fucking close to how strong he is compared to everyone else at featherweight. Like I've worked with him, and like I've known him since he was a little kid. You know, like he had a bowl haircut and that. He used to go to the wrestling tournaments when under 12s and that. And I was coaching like other teams. Dude, this guy, he's like imagine like you took a middleweight and you cut his arms and legs off at the knees and elbows, and that's Volkanovski like that. He's that strong, dude. He's not. It's special strong. How are you, Abul Fazul? Juice says, thank you for the guillotine explanation. Very interesting. I'll be able to show off my knowledge to my mates at the next fight card. Juice, when you do it like casual, like something that they should have known. Like everyone likes that patronizing dickhead friend. Try and be that guy because everyone likes him. Papa Brev says, Wagwan fat boys, Fab, why is the full guard guillotine the most inconsistent sub out there? Now, standing guillotine, that is for the man of culture. Basically, because of the explanation I said before, like a full guard guillotine is hard because they can just push down with the shoulder that's like that's against the body. They can push down, and it's not that hard to defend. It's not impossible to get it, but it's not that hard to defend. You know, I like to not anymore because my knees are shot, but like a kind of like a half guard guillotine from there is and I can put one leg over the back. I prefer that more. I have long arms and long legs, and I like that more than the full guard guillotine. That's just me. Abul Fazul, if you could not put rude gestures on there, I'd appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much. Sam says Triple C will sub LeBron. LeBron would probably punt him, dude. Chris H says a lot of guys that size go to the NFL in the US instead of fighting. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you go to in Australia, you'd play basketball, or you'd go to rugby league or rugby union, AFL. Like that's where those kind of guys go. And in the US, basketball, mm, NFL, even baseball, dude. You know what I mean? Hockey. Like you got to understand, dude. All those sports that I just mentioned, even soccer as well. Like for the lighter guys, if you've got the talent to make it all the way to the top, he'd go all the way to the top. You know what I mean? You wouldn't. There's no like people might say, oh no, he could have played in the NFL, but he's 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 fighting. Maybe there might be one dude that really what he wants to do is fight, but nah, like just look at what you would get to pay to ride the bench if you had like this much talent. You'd go. Juice says LeBron would KO Triple C. Like, Juice, how dare you, sir? Uh, Papa Bridge says I could only see Khabib getting dust. Well, you can go on YouTube and see him getting triangled. Um, Man, he could get submitted. That's not. I guarantee you get submitted at training as well. Gus Harris says, "G'day, Virgie from South Africa." Like, I've seen really good guys get submitted by not so good guys at training. That happens all the time. Uh, Sorry, guys, I'm going to skip a few. Brett M says Khabib's pressure is what beats even the best striking. I think also Khabib is not unbeatable. You know what I mean? I think that he got out at the right time too. You know, he was smart. You know, he did a very, very good job of that. Gus Harris says, didn't Volk debut at middleweight? Yeah, and he walked around even heavier. But if you think he could compete at middleweight in the middleweight division in the UFC, is a different story. He competed at middleweight in like the regional shows back in the day. I remember him at middleweight, but he's a little guy. Like he's a very short guy. The conscientious objector says Khabib was a huge lightweight. Guy almost died making 55. Yeah, and he was smart to do that, you know, because the way that he fights, he can be the bigger guy there. That's a big thing. Gus Harris says, nah, Southwest Sydney, Voji, much love to you though, my man. That's nice, guys. Bacon and Egg says Cyril beats Francis for the simple fact that he has a chin and more tools. Dude, if that was the case, then I would be a millionaire in picking fights. But that doesn't mean that you win fights, dude. That's you've seen, especially in the heavyweight division, where one shot can knock you out. I don't think that Cyril can't beat Francis, but I don't think that it's as simple as that. Chris H says, if Gordon Ryan is retired, who do you think is number one right now? I don't know, dude. I don't follow grappling to that extent. I don't know like the who's who and who's coming out of Brazil and who's winning this and who's winning that and who won. I don't know like to that extent to give a proper answer. The name that comes up in my head is Craig Jones. But there's always good guys, man, coming out of Brazil and whatnot. There's always good guys. And it depends on the rule set as well, because Gordon was number one pretty much across the board. Didn't matter the rule set. But I don't know that Craig does as well in the like IFBJJF rule set. I don't know. The conscientious objector says, "Yep," and patient Francis is more likely to play a point game with Gane. It 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 could, yeah, 100%. Like I don't. They're not stupid either. You know what I mean? They've got each other's distances. It's going to be an interesting fight. Um. Okay. Virgie says, "I'm actually okay. All good." Sorry, guys. I'm just skipping a few. Virgie says, Fab, do you still see train with Whitaker? No, I do not. We stopped working together. I sold the gyms to him and that maybe 2 years ago almost now. The start of the pandemic. About 4 weeks before the pandemic. That's when I left that team. Like I sold him the gyms and we fixed all the business stuff between us and he's with that team and I'm doing my own thing over here. The conscientious objector says, "Do you think Khabib retired because he could no longer make 55? His weigh-in against Justin looked rigged 100%." I don't know that it was because he couldn't make 155. I think like it might be like I don't know, but I think he's smart, dude. Like not many people. I admire the fact that he got out when he did because not many people understand that there was only at any time, what his loss was coming. It was around the corner. You know what I mean? Someone was going to beat him. Someone's going to beat him soon. And as soon as they beat him, it's going to be see Khabib blah 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 blah. So he got out when he got out. You know, he got out at the exactly the right time. He beat Gaethje, and that was it, man. He got out. I think that was a smart thing to do. Whether it was because his parents, not who knows, he couldn't make the weight. Maybe he has an injury that you don't know about. So who knows why he got out? But all I know is that he got out at the right time and he was smart to do it. Laced Up says, even just a small free snippet of Khabib's instruction on BJJ Fanatics shows how even just controlling an opponent on the ground using just your legs has a dramatic effect against the current fighters. 1000%. 1000%. I can't stress this enough. If you take someone down and you can make them stop, then you will get some time to rest. And that, my friends, is the way the cookie crumbles. It's 100,000 billion% correct. So yeah, that's just how the cookie crumbles, man. That's the way it works. And he's a freak of nature, you know. Gus Harris says, sorry for the side chat, Fab. You seem to have a tendency to draw quality humans to your chat and isolate as wet dream. Thank you, sir. That's what I'm going for, man. I'm glad that we can all have a chat and have a good time here, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the support from you guys. And please have all the side chats you want, guys. Please do so. I just won't necessarily read them all because they're side chats, but please have them all the side chats you like. Juice says Stipe has a chin too. Yeah, man, having a chin is not like the chin will get cracked. You get hit flush, your chin gets cracked. Simple as that. Chris H says, hope Gable Stevenson will start training MMA. He's one of those freak athletes. Yes, he is, dude. Yes, he is. And if he's going to go, he now would be a good time. You know what I mean? But you know, the thing is like some people don't want to do that. And like we were talking about it, like in other countries, like if you're gold, like say a Jordan Burroughs or something like that, like he'll be fine financially, etc. Da 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 as a wrestler and what he is, and da da da. And if he wants to coach wrestling and he loves wrestling and he doesn't need to fight and he doesn't have to lose his brain cells, he'll be fine. You know, more than fine financially, and especially like in a lot of like Eastern European countries, like some of the Central Asian countries, like the wrestlers, if you win a gold medal at the Olympics, you're God in that country, dude. You're an absolute God. In Russia, you're looked after, man. You're looked after if you're a gold medalist. And so not just this is how much money you get off that. Like you are pretty much safe to say you could walk into any university and be a top level coach, you know? And someone like Stevenson to do it so young, to already have a gold medal that young, he could be someone that wins 2 or 3 gold medals as a wrestler. So I don't know that unless he really wants to switch over. Like Aaron Pico had an illustrious career as a junior wrestler, really, really high level, and you still might see him put it all together in MMA. And I'm a big Aaron Pico fan, and I love watching him fight, and I hope that he does. You know, but someone like Stevenson, he could go and fight MMA now, and if it suits him, like his style and everything, he'll kill people, dude. But he might not be able to fight. He might not handle strikes that well. You know, who knows? And the flip side of that is he's a kind of guy like Mijan Lopez kind of guy that he could get 4 gold medals. He could get 5. That's how young he is, you know. He has a really good shot of being like the best of all time, being how young he is and whatnot. So I don't know if he wants to go to wrestling. I mean, I don't know if he wants to go to MMA or even if it would really benefit him. He could basically become one of the best Olympians of all time. So it's interesting, you know. Um, Zach says, at the conscientious objector, those public weigh-ins are only ceremonial and for the cameras. They do the real weigh-ins on a digital scale before the event. There's no conspiracy here, mate. That is true. I have to say, but not always. That wasn't always the case. That wasn't always the case. Um, Laced Up says, and he definitely left before MMA fighters could adapt to that, which probably wasn't too far off. It's not even that they don't adapt, like they don't know, and also like some don't know. Don't get me wrong, but he left. Yeah, he left at the right time for all those reasons. The conscientious objector says, at Zach, this was not a ceremonial weigh-in. Go watch it for yourself. I don't know which one you're talking about. Scales were wiped as the pointer was still rising. I will say this, conscientious objector. I don't know about that weigh-in in particular. I'm not going to say that it was rigged. I don't know. But I will tell you this. I have seen with my own eyeball shit that was off. Not about Khabib. I'm not talking about Khabib. I can't say that about Khabib. But I'm just saying with fighters and weigh-ins and a whole bunch of stuff, I've seen people not make weight and it just go through. So I've seen that. I've seen it with my own eyes. Justin Vishega says, good show as always. Love listening. Much love to you and everyone on here. No, thank you, sir. Thank you for being here, Justin. I really appreciate it, my friend. Zach says, at the conscientious objector, yes, it was. You can go watch the video where Michael Bisping explains the process and says this is not the issue. Again, for all of you there, yeah, the conscientious objector says, at Zach, Bisping will say whatever the UFC tells him to say. Nice guy, but total corporate chill. And look, I'm not going to bag Bisping. I think Bisping's doing the right thing for his family and that. But you know, you can't live in La La Land, dude. He works for the UFC. You know, that's what I say to you is like, you can't go, oh, I heard this in an interview, hence it's true. You can watch it. Like I watch Days, you know, I don't watch it, but I can say I watch this. Like I fucking watch Days of Our Lives, man, and go, oh, this is a cool show. I've never seen it, by the way. But I can say, oh, this is a cool show. I love the drama. I love the this. I love the that. And she said that, and he said this. None of that's true. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that that happened with Khabib, man. I'm not saying that it did, right? But I'm saying just because Bisping said it wasn't true, it doesn't mean that it wasn't true. You know, it doesn't mean that it was true. I don't know. But you gotta, you know, cross reference your sources there. I've seen weird stuff happen. That's all I'm gonna say. With my own eyes, I've seen it. Gus Harris says, you worked with Jimmy Crute, right? Is he close to being contention in 22, 23? I'll tell you this. I didn't work a lot with Jimmy Crute, a little bit. He's very good, man. He's very, very, very good fighter. You know, very, very good fighter. It all depends what movement occurs in that division. You know, it really, really depends. He hits very, very hard. Hits very hard, highly skilled fighter. It just depends on what happens there in that division. Gus Harris says top five. I mean, yeah, top five. He can probably get up there. Yeah, for sure. Top five, yes. Marty Raven says, I think Jordan Burroughs would be able to demand a large salary from the UFC. Yeah, I think yes, but at the same time is like, does he need that? You know, does he need it? Like, not everyone wants to fight. Not everyone wants to get their head caved in for what you might think is a large salary. You know what I mean? Where Jordan Burroughs is one of the greatest wrestlers to ever do it, and like he just on speaking tour and coaching and whatnot, he'd make a very, very comfortable living. I don't think he has to fight. You know what I mean? Um, Gus Harris says, didn't Burroughs miss out on the Olympics? Wow. Talk about unlucky timing. Almost everyone will lose at some point. Everyone will lose on at some point on a long enough timeline. Also, you got to understand, Marty, as well, is like we spoke about earlier. I'm not a UFC hater. I like the UFC. I'll tell you right now, they're a fantastic company to work for. You know, when you go with your fighters there, I've been to a lot of different promotions. No one comes close to the UFC. No one comes close in terms of professionalism, in terms of how they put the show together, how structured, how well organized it is. Everything's thought of. If you go up to someone and say, "Hey, my guy needs X, Y, and Z," it's fucking there. Like there, boom, they'll get it for you. They are a fantastic organization in terms of that. Um, the fighter pay is not their fault either. Like as far as like um the fighters will fight for what they pay them. You know what I mean? Like they're not stopping and going, no, 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 hold on, no, 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 X, Y, and Z. Like they pretty much will fight for whatever. And so what happens when you're talking about a Jordan Burroughs? Understand this. I'll repeat what I said earlier. The UFC had a card, the Strickland and Hall one, that no one would watch. No one would have watched that if that was on Bellator, on ONE FC, on Legends. No one